Sam Walton's Made in America. This is really just kind of the front of the book. I'm 2 or 3 chapters in right now and I'm sold. It's so good. The part that we're going to cover is in the first chapter, and it's talking about Sam's experiences with money and how that shaped him from a child to the way he operated his family, the way he operated his business. So it's setting the stage for Walmart being the way that they are, where people question, why are you so cheap? And I'm going to get to this. This is such a good highlight. I'm skipping ahead here, but he's asked that all the time. Sometimes I'm asked why today, when Walmart has been so successful, when we're a $50 billion plus company, should we stay so cheap? That's simple, because we believe in the value of the dollar. And I'm going to read this more at the end, but that's why I'm covering this, is because this value of a dollar stems from early on. He grew up during the Great Depression, and I'll preface this. I'm going to be reading a lot from this. You can kind of see everything that I've highlighted. I'm going to paraphrase, but I also want to read from this because it's so good. He wrote this, but these are the words of Sam Walton. So, no question about it, a lot of my attitude toward money stems from growing up during a pretty hard-scrabble time in our country's history, the Great Depression. The area that he lived in was also hit extra hard, so it was kind of this double whammy of just needing to learn the value of a dollar and hard work. His dad was an awfully hard worker. Who got up early, put in long hours, and was honest. You can also describe his dad as pretty savvy. He traded our farm in Kingfisher for another one, and then another time he traded his wristwatch for a hog. This unusual ability to bargain and to be savvy and negotiate, and Sam had a lot of those characteristics that he carried with him the rest of his life. He learned from a very early age that it was important for us kids to help provide for the home, to be contributors rather than just takers. In the process, of course, we learned how much hard work it took to get your hands on a dollar, and that when you did, it was worth something. And so being part of a family that has a farm and has a lot of hard work to do from like super early on, 4 years old, 5 years old, he was out there. They go through this story of just the effort it took to get a nice cold glass of milk. And he talks about how, he had to get up at 5 and go out and milk the cow and then bring the milk in. And then his mother would filter it and go through this whole process. And then just to have a cold glass of milk in the evening for dinner, there was so much effort. He was able to really appreciate that whole process, and thus appreciating the hard work that went along with that process. And he didn't take anything for granted. He eventually met his wife, Helen, and so there's a whole bit about meeting Helen, but one thing that I want to highlight on this, Helen has a Bachelor of Science degree in finance, which back then was really unusual for women. So this was in the 50s or earlier that she had that degree, which is super cool and so common these days now, but at that time that was really unusual. So that's one thing. But her father, L.S. Robinson, was an education in itself. So Sam was very influenced by his father-in-law and describes him as a great salesman, one of the most persuasive individuals that he's ever met. And then he says that his competitive nature, Sam's competitive nature, was such that he saw L.S. Walton's success and admired it. They were really smart with the way they handled their finances, and so they organized the ranch, the family ranch that they had, and the family business as a partnership. Helen and her brothers were all the partners. They all took turns during the ranch, doing the ranch books and other things like that. Sam saw that. Helen was raised with that. She has the bachelor's degree in finance. Sam admired all of that, and they took those tactics, those strategies, and brought those to the Walton family. And as you know, the Walton family is a really successful family. And so having that foundation of working with finances in that way really paid dividends in how he managed his family. So over the years, our Walmart stock has gone into a partnership with the family, and then the board of Walton Enterprises, which is us, the family, they make the decisions on the consensus basis. So sometimes they argue, sometimes they don't. So they formed a partnership with Helen and the kids, and essentially kind of round table all the decisions that is done with the money. And so they're raising their kids to understand the inner workings of the business, to really be in the know of what is going on and how to handle the growth of the company. And of course, in the beginning, it didn't start like that. Dealing with finances, dealing with growth of a company, dealing with business partnerships is complicated. And so if you lay it out from the beginning, and that's just what you know and what you build into the culture of the business of the family, it's going to be so much easier when you're making billions, right? Which is ended up happening, obviously. So he talks about his background. He talks about how he was influenced by his father-in-law, how they brought that strategy into dealing with their own family and how fruitful that was. And then he talks about how at one point, so this is 1985, Forbes labels him as the richest man in America. And he says there's no question that if you multiply the Walmart stock price and then how much they own, then at that point it was about 20 or 25 billion. And that the family must have all these kinds of assets and be super rich. And he talks about how there's this perception that was built around just how wealthy the Waltons were. Even though, the family is worth that much, they never really used the money like that. And so he goes in and he says that we don't need to buy a yacht, and thank goodness we never thought that we had to go out and buy anything like an island. We just don't have those kinds of needs or ambitions, which wreck a lot of companies when they get along in years. So some families will end up selling off their stock so that they can buy things, and then eventually somebody comes in and it's this hostile takeover. The family doesn't have enough stock to battle back, and they lose ownership over the company. And so he's writing this book for future generations because he believes that point is so important. So he even says here, one of the real reasons I'm writing this book is so my grandchildren and great-grandchildren will read it years from now and know this: if you start any of that foolishness, I'll come back and haunt you. So don't even think about it. He's trying to set the foundation for his family for generations to come with this book. But I'll also note, and I will give it to him in here, he does talk about the luxuries, some of the luxuries that his family has had. So we have our family meetings at places like the Ritz-Carlton in Naples or Del Coronado in San Diego. The house that we live in was designed by E. Fay Jones, who lives down the road in Fayetteville and is the world famous disciple of Frank Lloyd Wright. Also, side note, I love Frank Lloyd Wright. Fantastic homes. I want to say there's one, Falling Water, in the Pacific Northwest, and then the Guggenheim Museum. He's awesome. Look him up. There's a whole coffee table book of his amazing homes that he's built. Anyway, so his home was built by a disciple of Frank Lloyd Wright. And he says, even though I think it cost way too much, I have to admit that it's beautiful, but in a real simple, natural kind of way. So that's just kind of who this guy is. Just real, simple, down-to-earth, natural guy. And let me end it with this because we're coming up on the 10-minute mark here. Bringing it right back around. I'll read this one last time. Sometimes I'm asked why today, when Walmart has been so successful, when we're a $50 billion plus company, should we stay so cheap? That's simple, because we believe in the value of the dollar. We exist to provide value to our customers, which means that in addition to quality and service, we have to save them money. Every time Walmart spends $1 foolishly, it comes right out of our customers' pockets. Every time we save them $1, that puts us one more step ahead of the competition, which is where we always plan to be. At the root of Sam's obsession with saving $1 really is his obsession to be the best, to be competitive, to be better than his competition. I know I'm skipping it ahead, but I want to go back and read one thing. Stand by. Actually, I have it in my notes. I'll find it. Okay, here it is. Walmart wouldn't be what it is today without a host of fine competitors, most especially Harry Cunningham of Kmart, who really designed and built the first discount store as we know it today, and who, in my opinion, should be remembered as one of the leading retailers of all time. At the root of everything here, it's not that Sam's cheap. Sam grew up in an era, in a time where that was just standard, and he brought those lessons with him the rest of his years. Sam is a competitor, and he realized that in order to be competitive, he needed to serve his customers in the highest quality possible. Sure, it can be said that Sam is cheap when you look at it from an outside perspective, but that's not it. It's that he believes in the value of the dollar, and all he wants to do is provide value to his customers, which is quality and service, and to save them money. So anyway, that's just the first chapter. Maybe a little bit of the second. I hope you enjoy. I would get that book. I would read it as soon as you can. I'm just going to tease another one that I just got in the mail, fresh from Amazon. What I talk about when I talk about running. Really excited to read this along with some of the other ones that I have up there. Hope you enjoy.